The story of the Zionism that rules Israel today begins in 1923, when Vladimir Jabotinsky published his essay, The Iron Wall, a manifesto for the colonization of Palestine. It became the blueprint for the political movement he founded, Revisionist Zionism. Jabotinsky believed that trying to end anti-Semitism in Europe was a fool's errand, a dangerous illusion that put Jewish survival at risk. If Jews were to survive, they needed a Jewish state that emulated the European model, a model of colonial dominance. He had no illusions about what it would take to build such a state in Palestine. Jabotinsky warned that every native population, civilized or not, regards its lands as its national home, of which it is the sole master. This is equally true of the Arabs. You would never hear Jabotinsky spouting nonsense like a land without people for a people without land. He was clear that Palestine had a native population and that every native population in the world resists colonists as long as it has the slightest hope of being able to rid itself of the danger of being colonized. This was an obstacle that could not be negotiated away. It could only be overcome with force. Jabotinsky thought it would be impossible to transfer the Palestinian population, but that once you had eliminated the Palestinian leadership and any armed resistance and crushed any shred of hope among the population, then, and only then, you could start talking about offering the surviving population rights. In 1923, one thing was missing: an operational model to turn the Iron Wall from theory into practice. Fascist Italy provided that model. In 1922, in a letter to Mussolini, Jabotinsky suggested a parallel between the two movements. If you want to understand our level of vitality, please study your own fascists and add only some tragedy, some tenacity, perhaps more experience. He adopted the symbols, uniforms, salutes, and paramilitary structure of Italian fascism for his militarized youth movement, Betar. The admiration was mutual. Mussolini had this to say about Jabotinsky: "For Zionism to succeed, you need to have a Jewish state with a Jewish flag and Jewish language. The person who understands that is your fascist Jabotinsky." In 1934, with Mussolini's personal approval, Betar established a naval academy in Civitavecchia, Italy. There, cadets were trained directly by officers of Mussolini's Royal Italian Navy. Mussolini saw fascist Zionism in Palestine as an ally in ending English power in the Mediterranean. This collaboration ended abruptly in 1938, when Mussolini, aligning himself with Hitler, enacted Italy's racial laws, expelling all Jews from the fascist party and shuttering Jewish institutions, including the Betar Naval Academy. The revisionists lost their fascist ally, but not their fascist ideology. The same militarism and ultranationalism that shaped Betar were mirrored in the Irgun, the revisionist movement's military wing. When the British placed limits on Zionist colonization and immigration in 1939, the revisionist movement declared war. The Irgun and its more extremist offspring, Lehi, assassinated British officers and soldiers, blew up railways, government offices, military barracks, bridges, and ships, and launched a terror campaign against Palestinian Arabs. They bombed buses, cafes, and Arab marketplaces, where bombs routinely killed dozens of Arab civilians at a time. Perhaps the most revealing moment came in 1948. The United Nations appointed Swedish Count Folke Bernadotte as mediator to bring peace to Palestine. Bernadotte wasn't just a diplomat. He was a hero who had personally secured the release of thousands of Jews from Nazi concentration camps. But when Bernadotte proposed a peace plan that included the right of return for Palestinian refugees and limits on Israeli territorial expansion, the revisionist movement reacted with immediate deadly force. On September 17, 1948, Lehi terrorists ambushed Bernadotte's convoy in Jerusalem and machine-gunned him at point-blank range. Colonel André Serrault, the French UN observer killed alongside Bernadotte, had a deep personal bond with the Count. Just 3 years earlier, Bernadotte had rescued Serot's Jewish wife, Berta Grünfelder, from the Ravensbrück concentration camp. The assassination of Bernadotte was approved by Lehi leaders Yitzhak Shamir, Nathan Yellen Moore, and Yisrael Eldad, who went on to become Israel's prime minister, a member of the Knesset, and a prominent right-wing intellectual, respectively. The shooter was Yehoshua Cohen, who was never punished. Incredibly, Cohen later served as David Ben-Gurion's personal bodyguard at the kibbutz, where Israel's founding prime minister retired. Menachem Begin, the former Irgun commander, became Israel's first revisionist prime minister in 1977, followed by Yitzhak Shamir, a former Lehi leader, and later Ariel Sharon, who embodied the revisionist creed of unilateral force without negotiation. Benjamin Netanyahu is the most distilled product of this lineage, raised in a revisionist Zionist household with its principles drilled into him from birth. Netanyahu's politics, his rejection of Palestinian rights, his embrace of permanent military domination and aversion to negotiation, is simply the iron wall made permanent. Jabotinsky's dream of fascist settler colonialism triumphed over every competing vision of Zionism. But there was one fatal flaw in his thinking. The leadership and fighters of the Palestinian resistance have been eliminated repeatedly. But there is, it turns out, an endless supply of replacements from a people who refuse to bend the knee. If the Iron Wall was meant to break Palestinian resistance forever, then that resistance stands as living proof of the Iron Wall's monumental failure. Jabotinsky's heirs will never have a docile, compliant Palestinian population. Not then, not now, not ever. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you would like to see more content like this.